Today I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience at Turning Point USA's Eastern Regional Conference held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, who was there, and if I would recommend it to anyone, and if I would do it again. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and this is The Giraldo Show. Good afternoon, everyone. This is The Giraldo Show, and I am your host, Sebastian Giraldo. I do want to apologize, first of all, for not being able to release my episode at 1 p.m. I was having some difficulties, and I actually got a new microphone, so hopefully the sound quality will be at a much higher quality. But anyways, I'm going to release this episode right after I record this, and today's episode is going to be a little bit more laid back, and it's going to talk about my experience at Turning Point USA and the Eastern Regional Conference that was in Pennsylvania, specifically in Philadelphia, from the 28th of September to the 29th, so it was just for a weekend. I'm going to talk to you guys today about the speakers, what my experience was, what I recommended, all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. The event started on Saturday, September 28th, but before that, I arrived in Philadelphia at around 8:30 p.m., going to the hotel, which was the Philadelphia Marriott downtown. I had never been to Philadelphia, so this is my first time experiencing the city, and I enjoyed it for the most part. I saw a lot of big towers. I saw all the three stadiums that were right next to each other, so that was really cool. My Uber driver was really nice, so shout out to you if you ever begin to listen. But my travel to the hotel was pretty good. I arrived before my three other roommates. I arrived around 30 minutes before. And my first two roommates, Brian and Brendan, shout out to you guys if you guys are listening, were really cool guys. We went to go get some food together after we landed. And then my other roommate, I can't recall his name, I'm so sorry, but he arrived at around 12:30, and that was it. That was the end of the first day. Brian, Brendan, and I, we talked for a good bit, and we became friends and roommates. The next day, Saturday, September 28th, the event really began at 10 a.m. with the attendee registration, where I saw a lot of people. There were around, I would say, 150 to almost 200 people at the event, ranging from being freshmen in high school to almost graduating college, or actually even being graduates of college. The event started specifically at 10:30 with Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. He spoke until 12 p.m., and most of his talk was actually a Q&A where everyone could really come up and talk to him about any issues that are going on today, whether it be teachers that are teaching their students that capitalism and the success of this country was due to slavery and to Native American mistreatment, which is profoundly incorrect. If you guys want an episode on that, I will be more than happy to do something about that. To whether we should withdraw troops from Afghanistan, which he does. He does want to stop that war because he doesn't think it's necessary. It's not in our best interest, and I do agree with him. The person who had the argument with him was talking about how a potential withdrawal from Afghanistan could lead the Taliban to take over, but Charlie correctly identified that it's pretty unlikely at this point because the United States is a pretty powerful nation, and if the Taliban were to ever regroup and gain more power, which they have been doing actually, even though we've been in Afghanistan, it would be not very good news for the Taliban. But besides that, it was a pretty good talk from Charlie Kirk. I really appreciated him being able to speak to all of us. The first speaker was the longest slotted time, and for good reason. He had the most questions and answers out of anyone there. After that, there was a meet and greet, and I got to take a picture with him and shake his hand, and I actually got featured on his story from my Instagram page, The Giraldo Show, if anyone wants to follow me there. And that was a very proud moment for me. I was so happy when I saw that Charlie Kirk mentioned me in his story on Instagram, and I looked, and it was my picture, one of the only pictures at the time. And at this point, there are a couple more pictures that later he posted, but I was the first picture of someone else on there. So that was really proud moment for me. After lunch, which was from around 12 to 1, at 1:15, Alexandra Knowles spoke, and she is a consultant / CEO. I wasn't really sure what she was, but she spoke to us about our leadership summit where we could become leaders and help out candidates and how we could promote candidacy, anything like that. So pretty much just like how to be involved on our campus and to be a leader, I guess you could say. After her was Eric Varas from 12:15 to 2:35, so he had the shortest amount of time. His presentation was also the shortest. He is starting, to me, it seems like a very good cause. It's called Save the States, is a organization or a sub-organization from Turning Point USA to save the Electoral College, because as he mentioned, there are a lot of states that are passing bills to eliminate the Electoral College, which I explained that a little bit in a past episode, but I'll go ahead and briefly explain why eliminating the Electoral College is a bad idea. You've got cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, and New York City that have the most population. The coastal cities have more population than a lot of the mainland, and those people are going to pretty much be controlling the election if the Electoral College is eliminated. And since all of those coastal cities are Democratic cities, it's pretty much going to be a Democratic president afterwards. So I guess that's why the Democrats really want to eliminate the Electoral College, so that their people can be present more often. So he had a good presentation. I did enjoy it. If you want to join that cause, Save the States, you just follow him on Instagram, and I think he's on Twitter as well. But it's a good cause. We have to save the Electoral College because we need to keep what our founding fathers wanted. They didn't want mob rule. They wanted us to be a democratic republic. So we have two parts to our election cycle: the popular vote and the Electoral College. So those are very important things that we have to keep with us. Okay, the next speaker was from 2:35 to 3:35, and it was Cabot Phillips. I believe he's a member of Fox News, or he does a lot of things with Fox News, and he kind of just talked to us about being on the news and really what it was all about and how we can promote more conservative views, because this was a conservative meeting after all. Benny Johnson, he's probably one of my favorite speakers. He is part of the Turning Point USA's team, and he's what's considered the conservative meme lord. He had a time slot from 3:35 to 4:15, and he just kind of made us all laugh, showed us memes about the left, and show how the right or the conservatives are really much better at memeing than the left and the Democrats are. So, very funny segment. If you ever get a chance to have him at your school, go watch him, go listen to him. He's really funny. He's going to have a lot of memes for you. So just be prepared for that. And if you're a leftist, be prepared to be triggered. The next speaker, personally my favorite, Michael Knowles. He's part of the Daily Wire, which is run by Ben Shapiro. I listened to his podcast, and he was a very good speaker. He's actually the only person who I actually asked a question to. I was going to ask a question to Charlie Kirk, but I unfortunately was before the person who asked about the Afghanistan and the situation there, and so the time ran out, and I couldn't do anything. But anyway, Michael Knowles talking to us about cancel culture and how it's important to recognize that conservatives as a whole, we need to be able to stand up for our beliefs. And my question, actually, for those who might be wondering, I asked about a video on PragerU where there were 5 political figures in the world. I'll give you an example: 5 political figures: Obama, Hillary Clinton, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Donald Trump. I was surprised at 2 things. Number 1, that some people didn't even know who Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin were. And number 2, that most of them placed Trump below Stalin and Hitler, which obviously you're placing someone who you don't like behind someone who killed a lot of people. And his answer was pretty good. I didn't necessarily understand it too much. He said he wasn't very surprised that there are people that were being, I guess you could say, brainwashed by media and education to put Trump under Hitler, but he had a good answer. I can't recall most of the answer right now, but he had a good answer, and I definitely recommend, if you ever have a chance to hear any of these speakers, they were all very good, to go ahead and listen to them. Okay, and after Michael Knowles, that was the end of the day for speaking, at least, and then at 6:30 to 8, we had a social event with Rob Smith, and Rob Smith is a conservative, who is a liberal turned conservative, and he was a really nice guy. I had to talk to him about why he changed from being a liberal to a conservative, and I actually asked him about how to spread my podcast, and he just had to keep going with it. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm just keeping it alive and making sure that I'm consistent, even though today I wasn't consistent with my release date. I do apologize for that again, but being consistent, keep going, study social media, show how hashtags work, pretty much studied so I can promote my channel at the best rate possible. So after the meet and greet, the day was over. It was at around 8. I hung out with some people that I met there. It was a lot of fun. And that was the end of Saturday. Saturday was the longest day, obviously. The entire day was just speakers and just learning. So that was great. Sunday, the next day, doors opened at 8:30 for registration for anyone who couldn't be there that previous day or who had lost their pass. And at 9 o'clock to 9:45, Alexander Knowles again spoke at the event, again with the same program, the Leadership Summit, and she actually talked to us this time about different ways to publicly promote your campaign, your governor, your senator, whoever you're trying to get people to vote for. For example, she had an example with grassroots where you plant grass on the side of a hill and it grows, and it's the person's name, the governor or the senator's name, on the grass, and it was actually very cool. And I was thinking, maybe I could do that. There was also chalking where you can just draw or put words on the pavement with chalk, and it was a good speak. I definitely liked the second part of Alexander Knowles' talk better than the first, but both parts were still very good. After Alexander Knowles was Kat Timpf. She is someone who's on Fox News, and she was a very good speaker. I definitely liked her talk. She was talking to us about some hypocrisies that the left has been going through with Donald Trump and with their own causes. And the funny thing is, a lot of the questions that were asked of her at the Q&A session were about vaping, because she is a vapor. I actually talked to her about this. I mentioned that I'm personally not a fan of vaping, but I can understand the need for it. And she mentioned, yeah, I quit smoking because of vaping, and she feels a little healthier for it. We took a picture, and I'll probably post those pictures sometime soon on my social media, on the Giraldo Show on Instagram. So follow me there, and at Giraldo Show on Twitter. So after Kat Timpf, 1 hour of Rob Smith, and he talked to us kind of about what it was like transitioning from being a liberal on the left to a conservative, and he talked to us about how it was actually more difficult for him to come out as conservative than being gay, because at this point, being part of the LGBTQ community is a lot easier than being part of the conservative movement for some reason, because you get bullied and you get harassed a lot more if you're a part of the conservative movement. And a lot of questions about him were talking about how he had to come out and as a conservative, and how he encourages other people to not be shy, to kind of promote themselves as a conservative. He tells us to keep going with the battle and to make sure that we don't get suppressed by really anyone, because that's not how we're going to make sure that this conservative movement stays alive. He mentioned to us that millennials, he said, we're done, that their generation is done, that he's hoping that Gen Z, which is my generation, which is looking like the most conservative at this point, he's hoping that that movement is going to be the one that can hopefully be the most conservative ever. So that was very nice. And then the meet and greet with Kat Timpf, where I took a picture with her and talked to her about that, was from 11:30 to 12. And that was it for the agenda. That was it for the Eastern Regional Conference, a day and a half of speakers and of meeting people. So would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, absolutely. If you're someone who's at a very liberal school like I am and want to find other conservatives, and you don't have any Turning Point USAs or College Republicans clubs at your school, I recommend finding an event near you. They're all over the place. There's one, I think, this week from the 3rd to the 5th of October, which is a Black Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. So that's the next event. I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to find a conservative and who wants to promote their movement and find like-minded people, because I know how difficult it can be for someone who lives in a liberal area to find conservatives, because I guess it's more of a fear for people to rise up and say they're conservative, because the liberal and leftist media have made conservatives out to be such a bad type of person, I guess you could say. So I definitely would recommend. My experience was fantastic. I would definitely do it again, and it was great. And after my Turning Point USA agenda, after the Eastern Regional Conference, I walked around Philadelphia for a bit, went to the Rocky Steps, took a picture with the Rocky statue, went up the Rocky Steps, and I just went back to my hotel. And then I caught my flight back to Atlanta, Georgia, and that was it for my day. And it was great. I met a lot of great people, a lot of really nice people. And it was a fantastic experience. Again, I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to find conservatives out there. It's very important to be able to find people that you know think like you, make connections with them, so that eventually when you travel, for example, the Brian and Brendan, the two people that I met, they go to Rutgers, and I mentioned to them, if I ever go there, I'll definitely hit them up. So again, it's about making connections to people that are going to maybe eventually help you in the future. You never know who can be the next president or who can be the next Supreme Court justice, and you're like, I know that person. So it's very important to make these connections, especially with conservative people. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today's episode. Again, I do apologize for my delay in releasing this episode, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay with the sound, and that's going to be it. I'll see you tomorrow with more news and more conservative media. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and this is The Giraldo Show.